Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Matt here, and we back with another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. So today we're going to get into some of the events. I mean, it's all type of stuff going on at the moment in MMA. So we're going to get into a little bit of the fallout from UFC 291. I'm just going to do a few of the fights today, the main fights. We're going to get into some news, and then we're going to do the remainder of the card tomorrow. Just kind of go over a little bit of the fallout. So, of course, if you haven't heard, in the main event, Justin Gaethje goes out there and defeats Dustin the Diamond Poirier in the main event for the BMF championship. Bro, this was a great fight. It was shorter than I believe a lot of us thought it was going to be. I think everybody was kind of expecting, a 5-round war, maybe minimum 4 rounds, you know what I'm saying? But we was expecting it to go for a while. And Justin Gaethje got him out of there with almost the exact same combination, exact same setup, head kick that Leon Edwards used to defeat Kamaru Usman, coincidentally in the main event in the same place, which is Salt Lake City, Utah. So that was very interesting. But, fight started out, it was, pretty much back and forth as far as both guys were kind of testing each other out. Justin Gaethje was landing some good leg kicks. I believe Dustin Poirier was doing pretty good work as far as trying to back him up with jabs. It was like the guys were just kind of filling each other out. There was a few points where a few significant strikes were exchanged, but at the same time, it wasn't like they were in a firefight or anything like that yet. And then early on in the second round, Justin Gaethje sets up that head kick knockout to knock out Dustin Poirier and become the BMF champion. So that's what happened in the main event. Let's get into a little bit of the fallout. How they fall from grace is how I would describe this. So immediately after the knockout, while they're still interviewing Justin Gaethje in the octagon, Conor McGregor is already tweeting the man that he wants to fight him. Conor McGregor, bro. The king of snow. I mean, bro, here's the thing. What a fall from grace. We went from, some years back, everybody and their mama begging Conor McGregor for a fight, begging him, just baiting him for a call out, trying to get a fight with him. Even Justin Gaethje has said a lot of bad things about Conor over the years. We went from Conor having his pick, run-of-the-mill pick of whoever to fight, to the point he's at now where a lot of the top guys just don't even care to even fight the man. You got to think about that. The biggest star in the entire sport, and a lot of the guys don't even care about fighting him. I'll also put it to you like this. He might be a little bit too old now, but let's say about 2-3 years ago, there is no star in the sport of boxing, if they were in the same weight class, that wouldn't have taken a fight with Floyd Mayweather. Straight up. Now, maybe they wouldn't now because he's retired. He's a lot older. I mean, the man's a grandfather, for God's sakes. You know what I'm saying? But there was a time a few years ago, before the retirement and everything, that long before the Logan Paul fight, that any major boxer at the top of their weight class or a champion would have, definitely taken a fight with Floyd Mayweather. And when you look at mixed martial arts right now, especially in the UFC, the guys at the top, they're not worried about fighting Conor. You see the main guys that are calling him out, the guys that want to fight him or are willing to fight him, are kind of like your lower level guys and then like your mid-level guys. Like they're close to the top tier. Like top tier at that weight class, a lightweight would be like your Dustin Poiriers, your Justin Gaethjes, your Islam Makhachevs, guys like that. Charles Oliveira definitely was calling him for a fight, but at the same time, At this point, these guys don't even want to bother with that. Although I think Charles Oliveira would still give him that work, but a lot of them don't really even want to deal with Conor. You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, just what a fall from grace this guy is having. Then let's talk about this fool Michael Chandler. This dude right here. So poor Michael Chandler done taken almost a full year out of his career, not pursuing anybody, not trying to fight anybody, to film The Ultimate Fighter and to go through this circus that is dealing with Conor McGregor. And at this point, you can tell Conor's not going to fight that man. You know, I mean, the UFC would have to create some sort of a crazy incentive for that to happen. You know, he's not gonna fight that man. So it's like poor Michael Chandler's out here looking silly. You know, he's out here wearing these tight shirts. He's been out here trying to coach his team, film this show. Meanwhile, he's taking out all of this time out of his career. And it's not like he's a spring chicken. It ain't like he's super young. He's taking out all this time out of his career. And Conor McGregor is blatantly not going to fight that man. So, I don't know. Justin Gaethje does not want that fight. Made it clear he's not interested in fighting Conor McGregor. He wants to fight the winner of Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira for the lightweight championship, which ding, ding, ding. I don't know what I'm doing, if I'm ringing a bell or beating a drum. I'm here for that fight. I want to see Justin Gaethje against the winner of Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira. So we're going to see how that goes down. Let's move over into the co-main event. In the co-main event, Alex Pereira goes out there and defeats Jan Blachowicz in the co-main event via 3-round decision. Now, I scored this fight 2 rounds. 2 rounds to 1 in favor of Alex Pereira. I believe that, of course, Jan went out there and dominated round 1. Jan had his moments in round 2, but Alex Pereira was definitely doing the majority of the damaging or significant shots in the second round. And then I believe in the third round when Jan fully gassed, because, I mean, Jan was definitely huffing that Utah wind early on in the second round. When the second round started, you could tell on the stool that Jan was like, bro, why couldn't I finish that choke? Like, hey, guys, I was trying to finish that choke. I couldn't finish that choke. What am I do now? What am I do now? You know what I'm saying? Like, you could tell Jan was just like, what is this guy made of that I couldn't choke him out? So, with that being said, you know, he started up the second round. He was already a little bit tired, a little bit gassed. Nevertheless, you know, Pereira weathered the storm. He weathered a couple of tough takedowns. He weathered all of that being held in the first round. His gas tank seemed to hold up. He still seemed to have his wind about him, even in the third round. And I think it was a pretty good fight for Pereira. It showed that, you know, if he needs to, he can go the distance. He's not just going to go out there, get taken down and wilt under the top pressure or be held up against the cage and not make it to his feet whatsoever. So you could tell that the work with Glover Teixeira has definitely been paying off. It's definitely working. And Alex Pereira does go out there and he survives Jan Blachowicz, you know, and goes on to win by decision. So this sets up an interesting match at light heavyweight, which is a match that I made a few videos back. I was talking about a matchup. It looks like more than likely we're going to get Alex Pereira stepping in the ring with Jiri Prochazka for the vacant 205-pound title. Man, I'm ready to see that right now, bro. They can sign that up right now. Your boy wants to see that fight right now. Like, right now. Like, bro, I'm all for Jiri Prochazka stepping in there with Alex Pereira. That's going to be a great fight. When you're talking about if it stays standing, both guys, very good kickboxers, very well accomplished in the stand-up department. Maybe I would probably slightly give that edge to Pereira, but both when it comes to MMA striking, I don't know, because Jiri Prochazka has been in there with a lot of good strikers. and he comes with those crazy weird angles. He's leaning to the left. Next thing you know, somebody else's right hand catches you from the right. I mean, the man has some angles on him. So that's going to be very interesting to see. And Jiri looked really good in the scrambling situation and grappling situation with Glover Teixeira. I think that was one thing about that first fight that was kind of shocking for Glover, is the fact that Jiri was so good as far as his defense, his scrambles, and everything that he does in the grappling department. So even there, I think that will be interesting, as well as I think the chess matchup that, Glover wants to get that win back, and physically he can't do it himself because he's retired, but he's going to impart all of everything that he knows that he learned from fighting Jiri Prochazka. He's going to give that to Alex Pereira. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. I'm here for it. Hopefully they can get that fight signed and get it done, taken care of before the end of the year, so we can kick off 2024 with a 205-pound champion. Let's move on. Next fight down, we're going to talk about heavyweight fight. Derrick the Black Beast Lewis, representing Houston, goes in there and defeats. I gotta look at his name because I don't want to mispronounce it, even though I am. Marcus Rogerio de Lima. Derrick Lewis goes out there, a la Jorge Masvidal, hits a jumping flying knee to open the fight, and then just finishes the dude with ground strikes. Even got full mount on him. Derrick Lewis took full mount on a man. You know what I'm saying? Bro, look, it's a rough weekend anytime a man says that Derrick Lewis full mounted me. That's a rough weekend for you, bro. That's hard times right there when Derrick Lewis hits that full mount on you, because that's a full mount. You know what I'm saying? That's some top pressure for your A. You know what I'm saying? That's serious. Nevertheless, bro, very interesting. Derrick Lewis goes out there, gets the highlight reel knockout finish. He was tied with Matt Brown for the most knockouts. He now takes that record, having the most knockouts, takes his pants off during his post-fight celebration, dances, does the Degeneration X crotch chops. I mean, the man is celebrating. He throws his cup in the crowd. He throws his gloves in the crowd. For a second I thought, oh wow, he's taking his gloves off. Is he really about to retire? Which part of me thought that by that being such a huge knockout, such a big moment, it's kind of hard to beat that when you're looking to walk away from the sport. But then he reveals that he is now a free agent, and that was the last fight on his deal. This opens up all types of... This opened up a whole other can of worms. This is at top shelf can of worms. You know what I'm saying? This is at the top shelf. You gotta have a little money to buy this can of worms. You dig what I'm saying? Bro. So now he's going to be a free agent. So let's first off the obvious. PFL, Francis Ngannou waiting in the wings. All right. I know their first fight was terrible, but that was a lifetime ago. Most new fans, some of y'all new fans out there, y'all don't even know that Derrick Lewis fought Francis Ngannou before in one of the worst fights in heavyweight history. You don't even know. I watched it live. You don't even know. Nevertheless, bro, don't even worry about that fight. Take that out your memory. Francis Ngannou versus Derrick Lewis, a $2 million price tag on there if Derrick Lewis signs on the dotted line. Very interesting. Also, a lot of the heavyweights that they have in PFL, I'm not sure if they have a ton of heavyweights that are even going to beat Derrick Lewis. So not only would he get that $2 million price tag for fighting Francis Ngannou, and who knows what Francis even looks like now. He's got a whole bad leg. His whole leg fell off in the fight with Cyril Gane. We haven't seen him fight since. He's got to go out here and box the greatest heavyweight boxer currently living at the moment, possibly, besides Usyk. He's got to box Tyson Fury later on this year. Who knows how that's going to go? Who knows what state of mind Francis is going to be in? I like Derrick Lewis's chances in that. So not only could he possibly beat Francis, but regardless, he's going to get $2 million to fight him. I could definitely see him winning the $1 million tournament in the PFL after his fight with Francis. So that's a pretty good deal for Derrick. Look, don't even bring up no Bellator to me. Derrick Lewis would be a fool to sign with Bellator. So who knows even what's going on with that company, but he better not go there. No one wants to see him going there with old Dusty. What's his name? Ryan Bader. Get that guy out of here, bro. So no one's trying to see that. So it's like Derrick Lewis needs to go to the PFL if he's going to lead the UFC, or just for the pure violent sake of it, Derrick Lewis and BKFC. Throwing these large lunchbox hands that the man has. These large Studebakers for fists that the man has in the BKFC bare knuckle throwing down. That could also be extremely interesting. In my opinion, number one, because you're also going to deal with possibly, if he gets into a firefight with somebody in BKFC, and it's a whole different thing, bare knuckle boxing. He could get a lot of cuts, could get a lot scraped up. He could go out there and get housed by somebody who is truly trained in the technique of bare knuckle boxing. So, in my opinion, if he's going to lead the UFC, you got to go to PFL. Number two, BKFC. Or you just stay and ride it out in the UFC. But frankly, looking at those heavyweights in the UFC, there's not a lot of guys, unless he drops way down the list of the unranked heavyweights. There's not a lot of guys for Derrick Lewis to fight, that's going to be somewhat favorable for him. And I would think at this point in his career, he's probably looking to make a few, ride off into the sunset paychecks and something that's a little bit favorable. And I mean, locking him in the octagon with Jelton Almeida is not favorable. You don't want to see Derrick Lewis with Tommy Aspinall. You're not trying to see that old Tommy go out there and do work. You know what I'm saying? And and I'm a huge Derrick Lewis fan, so I'm not saying Derrick Lewis can't beat these guys, but these is tough fights for Derrick Lewis. You know what I'm saying? You lock him in there with, come on, bro. It's just, you're not really trying to see him with, there's a lot of guys in the UFC who aren't necessarily stars yet at heavyweight that are dangerous as far as heavyweight fighters go for a guy that's been doing it for as long as Derrick Lewis has. So I mean, in my opinion, you might be best to just head on over to the PFL, roll the dice, get that $2 million payday against Francis Ngannou. By the time Francis has his boxing fight and he's ready to come back to MMA next year, it's about the right time for Derrick Lewis. Gives him some time off, hang out with his family, chill, do his contract negotiations, come back and fight Francis. And let's say Francis doesn't fight him. Let's say Francis, after he takes that L to Tyson Fury, is like, nah, I'm done. I'm just going to run PFL Africa. Bro, I still think Derrick Lewis could go out there and win the $1 million payday from the PFL tournament. And I mean, I'm sure he's definitely making good money in the UFC, but that $1 million payday might be enticing to go out there and whoop up on some guys nobody's really heard of. And, and I'm sure on the back end, the undisclosed pay, I'm sure PFL will definitely be looking to take care of Derrick Lewis. So, be very interesting to see how that goes down. Nevertheless, that's all I'm going to cover from UFC 291 today as far as other news going on. And we're going to come back to UFC 291 tomorrow. I'm going to hit you off with the rest of the card. We're going to discuss everything. I just wanted to kind of see how a few other things is going to play out today, in the MMA sphere, in the MMA space. And we're going to come back and touch back on the rest of UFC 291. As far as any other news at the moment, I mean, man, who knows what's going on with Israel Adesanya as far as his middleweight title defense, in Sydney coming up in September. It was looking like the Sean Strickland fight was off because he kind of priced himself out as far as what he was trying to negotiate from the UFC to get paid. Now, I don't even know what's going on because Strickland was talking like the fight was back on as of Saturday night. Now, I don't know. It seems like Izzy's on board. It seems like, I guess, Sean Strickland's on board, but the UFC hasn't really announced the fight yet, or at least as of the time that I'm making this video. So I don't know if Izzy's fighting Strickland. I don't know if he's going to bore us to death and fight Jared Cannonier again. I don't really know. So who really knows what's going on with that? Also, of course, I'm sure you know if you watched UFC 291, Wonder Boy, Stephen Thompson did not accept the missed weight fight from Michelle Pereira. Michelle Pereira missed weight by like 3 pounds. You know, obviously looks like there could be a little friction between Wonder Boy and the UFC, because I'm sure they were pushing him to accept that fight because they wanted whatever extra pay-per-view buys that might have translated into. The UFC wanted that, and I've heard some rumblings that I don't know if it's true, if they didn't pay him his show money or not. Usually they give guys their show money in that scenario, because it wasn't like he was the one that missed weight. It seemed like there were some rumblings about that. I believe he's going to be on the MMA Hour today, so I'll be checking that out here in a little while to see what he's got to say. But there might be a little friction between the UFC and him. I don't know. Maybe he did get paid by now. You know, those news stories, they get released kind of strangely, so I don't really know. So the UFC might have paid him, or they may have be going to pay him. I don't know. We're going to find out. But that fight was not on there, but I'm kind of glad about it, because it did allow the Derrick Lewis fight to get elevated to the main card, from what I understand. And after that knockout, that was great. So that was cool to see. But, you know, that's kind of where we're at right now. You know, that's kind of where we're at. Again, you know, like, subscribe, comment. Let me know if you agree, if you disagree, what you think about the things I said today. What you think's going to happen with the Izzy Strickland fight. Is that actually even going to happen? I don't know, bro. Let me know what you think about where Derrick Lewis should be going. Should he stay with the UFC? Is it best to go to the PFL? Don't even try to argue Bellator. Don't come to me with no one championship. None of that. It's either BKFC, number one PFL, BKFC as the number two as far as leaving, or staying with the UFC. Let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys for joining me for another episode. A matter of fact, MMA. And tomorrow we're going to get into the rest of the UFC 291 card and any new fallouts from interviews or anything that are happening today. So I appreciate you guys for joining me once again. And until the next video, I'll check you next time. Peace.